It's Grow the Heck Up.
Grace and peace. Welcome to Grow the Heck Up. Today we're talking about the psychology of excuses. When I was on Engine Radio 91.7 FM down here in Houston, I was talking on Sunday a little bit about the psychology of excuses, and I was also talking about the psychology of sports fandom and what Robert Cialdini said in his book, Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion, about how we like to be associated with winners because it's a reflection of our own desire to be superior in the eyes of other people. But somebody responded to me on Twitter and they said, hey man, you're the first person I've ever heard talk about burging or burging. That's B-I-R-G, basking in reflected glory. And there's also an opposite as well. And studies show that when our teams do well, we feel better about ourselves. People on school campuses actually wear more gear the next day, more school team gear the next day. Not just that, the greater the margin of victory, the more team clothing shows up on campuses. That's fascinating. But Jason Mason responded to me on Twitter. He said, you're the first person I heard talk about burgeoning here. I did a little excerpt on it, and it was like from 2016. And here's what he said. There are two ways that I see sports now. The first being that the average American citizen that goes to work every day in a routine work week doesn't love what they do and feels trapped. They don't feel like they're winning in life, let alone even competing. But then the weekend comes and there's a team that they can root for representing their city to get a win that day and hopefully even a championship. NFL teams have players who are many things that we are not, superior athletes who get paid millions of dollars and are hyper competitive, but they represent us. So every Sunday we cheer them on in hopes of a win because without winning, they're losers in many people's eyes, which explains why we are so emotionally invested in the teams we root for. When they win or lose, so do we, or at least that's what it feels like. If we're not careful, our investment in sports can quickly become an idol in which life's pleasures, joys, disappointments are centered around instead of God. You guys have heard me talk about that before. I watch sports probably more ever in my life now than I did before. But I like to explore the fanaticism. And it's fascinating to me how many people love champions. They argue for champions. Many of us know people who have almost come to blows over arguing over sports and music and artists and rap artists as well. And when you stop to think about it, it really is fascinating how many people root for champions and are so personally invested in Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry, or whomever else. But yet they don't take up the attitudes of being champions in their own lives. That is fascinating, right? If you look up to people, you should, it's only natural to emulate them. And I think that sometimes television, movies, sports, entertainment in general gives us this way to project our desires or live out vicariously through the characters that we're watching and reading about, all while forsaking the champion that I believe God is calling us to be in our own lives. We all know people also probably who can spit stats like nothing. They can tell you who got traded when and who knows what, and they get busy and they know all stats, but they probably can't tell you their own personal financial statistics in the same way. And, whatever's important to you is important to you, but this is worth exploring. You should be personally invested in your own victory more than you are in the victory of those who play on a football field and that's not your cousin. You ain't get drafted when he got drafted. He don't invite you to none of the parties. You don't know him. And it's awesome to celebrate heroes that, people who do incredible things in whatever fields, whether it's sports or academia or whatever. Nothing wrong with celebrating a hero or someone who's excellent. But I also think that it's important to understand that you can be a champion and you're supposed to be a champion in your own life. You're supposed to have victory in your own life. You're not supposed to be subject to things. You're supposed to have mastery over them. So let's talk a little bit about the site. Hey, what's up, good brother? My man Zadok is for those listening by way of podcast somewhere else. My man Zadok just said, "What's up?" to me. Yeah, that's not your cousin, Zadok. You know what I mean? You jumping up on the couch. We jumping up on the couch for these guys. We arguing with our friends for these guys. And our life is no different. That's a lot of energy. That's a lot of mental energy. That's a lot of emotional investment. You know what I'm saying? To not have a real stake that manifests somewhere out in the real world. Shout out to All About Ari Rudy, who just came in as well. So those of you watching, we're recording for the podcast and we're talking about the psychology of excuses. And I'm trying to help you I'm trying to help you become a champion in your own life. I'm still on my way. I haven't attained yet, but I'm on my way. The best leaders are readers. The highest earners are learners. So, excuses are a psychological method of shifting blame and keeping our self-image intact when we're faced with negative feedback. There are strong emotional pressures that motivate our excuse making and responsibility, positive self-image, and things like that are key to reducing the need for even making excuses to begin with. So some traits of people who make excuses. People who make excuses do not solve problems. Once they make an excuse, their brain stops working. There's nothing else to do. And some people are actually engaged in working to keep the excuse valid so that they don't have to. But either way, wherever it starts, people who make excuses don't solve problems. They don't seek solutions because, hey, listen, I can't do it. I don't have enough money. I don't really know anyone in that industry. Oh, the brain stops working, as opposed to people, who take the approach when they face with a problem. They say, man, how can I get around this? Man, I don't really have that much money. How can I start a business? What businesses can I start? Who can I partner with that might have money, that might be willing to put money behind my expertise? Man, all my friends know that I've been doing catering since we were 10 years old. Man, maybe I can get with somebody who has the money, and I have, as opposed to the person like, yeah, man, but I ain't got no money for that, man. Yeah, man, but I ain't got no time to learn all of that stuff, man. I'd rather just, and listen, we get what we get. This is not a pressure scope to make anybody, feel like they need to do more, but to take an inventory. Because I'm gonna be honest, man, growing up in the hood, it programmed me with some very destructive victim mentality thinking. And so sometimes even when people hear me talk about a victim mentality, sometimes I know people be like, man, but take it easy, man. People got all kind of, yeah, I get it. And because I'm from that kind of place. And I also know how much of that victim mentality I carried with me into areas of my life, because I didn't understand the power to overcome. I didn't understand the power of self-empowerment, as it were. So next, people who make excuses usually lose touch with reality at some point. Because what they're capable of and what can be done and how a problem can be solved is not really based on an honest assessment of what they have at their disposal, but based on perpetuating this desire to keep up this facade, to make an excuse, to give themselves an out. So eventually when you're doing that, it's hard to keep up with what's real and what's not. When your objective is not to be empowered, some people have been trained to be victims. It's, they're not intending to be bad. They're not, I don't think a lot of people, they don't realize they're doing this at a conscious level. A lot of things that are programmed into our psyche and the way we respond, we don't really always realize we're just playing this broken record that someone put in our head. And listen, I encountered this too. I used to, I've been talking like this for a lot of years. I just didn't officially take a platform as a motivational speaker. You know what I'm saying? But I used to always be like, yo, listen, I want to do this. Man, I believe I could do this, man. What if somebody made this? And a lot of people used to give me negative feedback. And I used to take that so personally and internalize it. I used to think that they didn't believe in me. So if I had an idea that I thought was awesome, or I want to make a media company called Grow the Heck Up, and it's going to have different personalities. I'm gonna flip that. I'm gonna be like Oprah was to like Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz, and how she put on those personalities from her, like, people, yeah, but they ain't gonna let you really. I used to feel like people didn't believe in me, and I used to take that personally. But I realized that a lot of times the way people respond to your ambition is a reflection of how they see their own limitations, and it's genuinely not personal. They really, now you have to guard your space in your mind. You got to be like, that's negative. I can't really, I can't afford to have that kind of thinking challenging what I'm trying to do in my personal life. So you might have to set up some guardrails, but don't take that personally. A lot of times people respond to you based on how they see themselves, and they don't know how to separate that. People cannot see more for you sometimes than they see for themselves. And sometimes people can. Sometimes people believe in others, but not for themselves. But, just some things to think about. So people who make excuses alienate people who value personal responsibility. I say that again. People who make excuses alienate people who value personal responsibility, because people who value personal responsibility and take personal responsibility will always look for a solution for you. They will always be like, well, maybe you can do this. Maybe we can try that. What about this? What about that? And there are really people who just will always respond in the negative. And they're like, yeah, or either the people who get presented with an opportunity and always blow it and always have some kind of excuse why they couldn't show up, why they couldn't make it, why they couldn't be on time, why they couldn't fill out the form, why they didn't sign up, why they went down there but the line was around the corner. They claimed they need a job, but they went down there and the line was too long, and then what's the use? And all, some people just make excuses, period, because it's just hardwired into their personality. And people who take personal responsibility flee from those kind of people. Because after a while, it's like toxic. It's like, hey, man, I tried to tell her. I tried to tell him. I tried to help him. You know what I mean? So you have to be careful of that, because if you keep making excuses, you will alienate people who are going to actually be your support system. You're going to actually, alienate and push away people who could be your support system, who could be the reason why you ultimately end up the reason why you ultimately end up overcoming. But if you continue to make excuses every time someone offers help, you will be branded that person who's not worth investing any time, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, or game into. Next, people who make excuses don't recognize opportunity. They only see obstacles. I'm seeing it all the time now. You guys know me. I'm on to something all the time. Like, oh, I'm about to do this. I'm about to do that. And some people, they like, yeah, but if you got a full-time job, yeah, but if you don't have much money, yeah, but if you don't know anybody in that industry, like they don't, some people don't want to know how. They're not curious. They're not like, really? How? Tell me about that. Like, how easy is that to get into? And is there money? Some people respond with curiosity in general because they're always looking for knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And some people, they just shut down everything because they're just shut down artists, and that's just who they are. And their life will bear the fruit of that as well. And while some of us are moving on and growing and learning and excited to grow and be challenged and understand that failure and getting knocked down, and you fell off the wagon, you started and you're getting back up, like that's a champion mentality. This is the mentality of the people we root for in the playoffs, not the mentality of the victims. It's a bunch of victims who have no control over the aspects of their own life, who root for people who are uber disciplined. Do you like LeBron? You think your life is like LeBron? Okay, so your life doesn't involve basketball, but is your discipline in life? I mean, listen, I love this new concept I happened upon last week, that when you try to move something in your life, let's say a bunch of things in your life are different sizes based on priorities and importance or whatever. Life is so tightly wound for whatever reason, right, that we barely can spare any space. So when you try to move one thing in your life, it's going to move other things, right? If you call yourself trying to wake up early, you're like, yo, man, I got to start getting up early. You're going to be like, yeah, but I be staying up till like 2, 3 in the morning. So I don't know. I got to go to bed earlier. Man, but if I go to bed earlier, that means I got to eat earlier. Man, if I got to eat earlier, that means I got to think about what I eat, because I can't go to bed with all that heavy stuff. I'm going to be tired in the morning. You try to move one thing in your life, it's going to move a couple of other things around. And some of us, again, at a subconscious level, some of this is happening. Some of us rise to that challenge like, yo, come on, man, I got to get on my game, man. I got to start going to sleep early. I got to get my diet ready. I got to walk 30 minutes a day. There's no other way. I got to pay this price because I'm not going to. And some people be like, yeah, but then if I start waking up early, kid, I can't play those video games at night. Oh, man, I can't catch my show at night and some people are just not willing to pay that price. But then when you ask them why later, they probably won't say because they wanted to stay up and watch their show. They won't tell you that it's because they chose not to be disciplined. They're going to make an excuse. They're going to tell you they didn't have enough time. They didn't have enough resources. They didn't have enough energy, and they was busy with the kids, and both of them work, or the wife stayed at home, so she couldn't do it. That's how it's going to go. That's the dangerous cycle. Sometimes, man, you got to hop off that train. I'm not even going to say sometimes. You got to hop off that excuse train. Take an honest inventory of your life. The church is not overweight because of the devil. The church is overweight because we're greedy and we're gluttonous and we just don't take care of ourselves the way we're supposed to. It's not magic. Let's keep it real. 69% of Americans do not have 69% of Americans, according to Forbes and I think it's bankrate.com, I think, or 69% of Americans don't have $1,000 or have less than $1,000 in savings. Now, while I understand that there's poverty, hardship, depressed economy, fluctuates, all of that, but 69% of Americans, less than $1,000 in savings, that's choice. That's decision making. That's not oppression or anything like that. So take responsibility. You know what I mean? When I look at myself and I feel like I need to lose weight, I'm taking personal responsibility. It's not, what they put in the food. It ain't the hormones. Because when you start to do the least you could do, you'd be surprised at how far it goes. Right? You might be like, man, it's so hard to lose weight. I mean, that's true. But do you exercise 5 to 7 days a week, though? I mean, you know what I mean? You got to push it to the limit before you say what's difficult. Talk about what you've done before you talk about what's difficult. Make sure you push into the max to reach that goal. So, people who make excuses don't recognize opportunity. They only see the obstacles. And that's a lens. That's a lens. And you can try to break people out of it, but some people will not break out of that mentality until they are ready or until they see. You can't force. But I will tell you, though, it is difficult to maintain faith when you are surrounded by people who are in doubt. When you're surrounded by people who see themselves like grasshoppers, it's hard to be the Joshua and the Caleb who say, we are well able. We are well able to overcome. We can take that mountain. We can take these giants. You got to watch out for people who, listen, the spies that were sent out to spy out the land, 10 came back with a bad report, 2 came back with a good report, and the 10 who had the bad report poisoned the minds of the rest of the congregation in the assembly, and they lifted up their voice and they cried out saying, oh, we can't do it. We're going to die. We're going to die. We're going to die. We're going to die. 2 of them said, oh, no, we can do this. God is with us. Their protection is gone from them. So I guess it still is a matter of whose report will you believe. Yeah, I like that one. I like that one. They don't recognize opportunity. They only see obstacles. What's up, Sister Chelsea Jade Hayes? If anybody knows of a good church in Dallas, my sister Chelsea Jade Hayes was asking. And if you're listening by way of podcast, you can still hit me up because we're recording for the podcast and doing Periscope at the same time. So lastly, people who make excuses undervalue strengths and they overestimate weaknesses. They undervalue strengths and they overestimate weaknesses. And again, this is conditioning. This is conditioning. The children of Israel, the people of God in the Old Testament in the wilderness, God had done great things for them. He said, remember me, I got you. I'm going to hold it down. I'm going to do incredibly more things, incredibly more powerful things as we go forward. And, all they saw was their weaknesses. And they overestimated their weaknesses and they undervalued their strengths. And sometimes we do that as well. Because again, it's just conditioning. It's just conditioning. So you got to be careful that you don't fulfill your own negative prophecy. And I'm not with The Secret and the law of attraction, like you can manipulate the world and do magic. But I will say that we do have a culture of mediocrity. The culture is not pushing personal responsibility. The culture is pushing that everything that everyone else is doing is going to affect your life so much that you need to get onto the street and yell about it. Right? Don't take control of your own investment. Get mad at greedy Wall Street because you mindlessly entrusted your 401k to your job and Wall Street's messing that up and it's Wall Street's fault. Right? Don't learn investing yourself. Don't take responsibility. Oh, the school is bad and go out and march in the street and demand that this or, I'm not saying that teachers shouldn't be paid better, but work on all these external problems with this mob mentality and never mind what you could be doing every day. Put your kid on Khan Academy every day to learn something that where the school might be failing. So the culture, as far as I see it, the culture is not pushing personal responsibility and not that personal responsibility fix all things. But I like to take, all things into account. So some quotes before we go. Excuses are the nails used to build a house of failure. Jim Rohn said that. Excuses are the nails used to build a house of failure. George Washington Carver, a scientist and a slave, or former slave, said, or was born a slave but raised free. He said 99% of failures come from people who have the habit of making excuses. I mean, this was a guy who was a scientist during the slavery era. And what are people talking about? So I was talking to someone the other day about knowledge being power. And I'm always talking to someone the other day. And I asked the question, right? I said, we say knowledge is power, right? What did that statement mean before you had the internet? And what does it mean now by contrast? What did knowledge is power mean when people only had the ability to have that many books in their house? Like when that's all you could have. Maybe you could walk to the local library, or if your local library had good books, or you had to walk to the library, you had to return them, right? Like knowledge was power before that. The Bible tells us how important knowledge, wisdom, and understanding is. All of our forefathers, Martin Luther King, Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, they used to tell us, oh, knowledge is power, knowledge is power. What does that mean now that you have the world of knowledge at your fingertips? Do you think that you're properly stewarding what you have access to in light of that fact? The way you spend your time, what you spend your time listening to, what you spend your time feasting on? If knowledge is truly power, then you have the potential to increase exponentially depending on what you are willing to invest your time into. So those are my thoughts. And Ben Carson said, it doesn't matter if you come from the inner city. People who fail in life are people who find lots of excuses. It's never too late for a person to recognize they have potential in themselves. And I know quite a few people, especially people of color, don't really like Ben Carson right now because of some of the things he's doing and who he's siding with. But I mean, the man's story is real and you can't take away from him. He grew up in the inner city, in the projects, low income housing. And he said books took him everywhere. His mom had a 4th grade education and was illiterate, but made her kids read books every day. Whereas we got people, and I don't do this to take shots, but we are living in the reality, right? Cardi B says she a prostitute. Cardi B said she sleeps with men and then she gets money. That's part of like one of the hooks of her songs, right? And now she's on stage twerking. She's pregnant. You know what I'm saying? And she's being held up as a spectacle like she's some sort of queen. Some people are going to exalt different kinds of people in their house. Some people are going to exalt people like Cardi B and Migos in their house. And that is going to produce a different kind of child in society. And when that child raised on Migos and Cardi B, it turns out to be a lowlife who, or some teen pregnant girl because that's what the household raised them on. What are we going to say, that that's oppression? It's not always oppression, fam. It's not always oppression. You better take responsibility. Now, listen, you can't control listen, you can do what you want. You can't control your children. You can't control your children, but you know whether or not you're putting forth the best foot forward. Somebody said something about Ben Carson, but you can put your best foot forward and your children still not go in the way that you raised them all the time in every single way. And the story's not over yet if your children are still on this earth. But come on, there's some credence here. Like, some people are being raised on mindless TV. You jump in the car, Cardi B and Migos and Kendrick and Drake and J. Cole is playing, right? And J. Cole got this new positive joint out that I hear is pretty good. So salute to him. I'm just trying to make a point, right? Then you come home and you put on is violence and video games and love and hip hop and all that. And I'm about to start gaming with the youngin' in my house. So I'm not like anti. But I just think that when you think about what Malcolm X had access to when he said education was powerful, when you think about what Marcus Garvey had access to when he said education was everything, when you think about what Martin Luther King and everybody else had access to, we were scientists when we were slaves. We were scientists when we were slaves. We were inventors when we were slaves. We were business owners and we had ingenuity. Black man helped Edison come up with the with whatever caused with the filament in the light bulb that allowed it to stay on for more than a couple of days. So there's greatness. There's greater potential in all of us. But if you play by the rules and the code of what society hands you, if you eat what they sell you, if you watch, I'm talking physically, somebody said filament, it was Lattimore. I'm talking physically, nutritionally. If you go by the world status quo, I don't think that your life is going to have a good outcome. I'm talking just standard job, college, or like, it's not going to happen. You better turn your negative into a positive. Take responsibility for your own life and stop making excuses. And I'll leave you with this, only to some degree when you're making excuses. Because sometimes you could give somebody an excuse and it satisfies them. Right? Oh, hey, Voss, man, you coming down to the new seminar, man? I know you was interested in real estate, man. Hey, it's one opening up tomorrow, man. Oh, man, I can't, man. I got to, Wife gave me some stuff to do, man. We just gonna all right, cool, bro. Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. Catch you next time. They may accept my excuse, but only I know the degree to which that excuse was real. Only I know the degree to which when I turn in my assignment late, or when I tell my boss I'm going to be late, or when I tell somebody I can't make it, or when I cancel, I don't fulfill my word, or don't keep my commitment to the gym, or whatever it is. Only you can prevent forest fires. I just had to say that if you guys remember that. Turn your negative into a positive. Take that pain. Take that pain. Look at your bank statement and be like, oh my goodness. Listen, lament. In the Bible, when they realized they were sinning or something bad happened to their family, they rend their garments and they cried out to heaven. Look at your bank statement and rend your garments, man. Just be honest with yourself and say that you're wasting tons of money. You're eating out all the time. You beasting on Haagen-Dazs on the late night. You're abusing your body. Get real with yourself, man. Lament, weep, and wail for the destruction that is coming. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever the Bible says. So, yeah, man, no excuses for nobody. Not for you. I like this one. Henry Ward Beecher said, the real man is one who finds excuses for others, but never excuses himself. And that's the way it should be. Yep. Don't be harsh on others and lenient on yourself. Be harsh on yourself and show others mercy. But only you know if you're making excuses, man. So as far as me today, I'm working on a client's bio, making their bio more succinct. I just learned a new technique called story branding that I'm going to be incorporating into all my marketing. It's brilliant. It's giving me a great new understanding for marketing, no matter what it is. It's called Story Branding by Don Miller. You might want to pick that up. Eric Thomas said, put yourself on punishment. What else do I have to do today? I had a whole list, but I'm drawing a blank right now. I had 3 other main things I had to do. Oh, I have to set up a Facebook marketplace today. Jimmy told me to, and I don't know how. My wife has bought stuff off Facebook Marketplace, and I don't know how to set one up yet, so I got to learn how to do that so we can increase our reach and also hopefully make some more money with All Christian Everything. What else? I have to complete this Udemy course that I've been telling you guys about. I still haven't. Oh, you said I have to pray? What do you mean? It's 11:38 and I'm on Periscope. Yeah, that's already, God and the word is always the given. God and the word is always the given. And I did Bible study with the youngest before they got out to school. Told them don't let the wicked entice them. What was in the word today? What was it? Oh, a wise man is strong, because it's the 24th. So I'm guessing I was in Proverbs 24 this morning. A wise man is strong, the Bible says, and knowledge increases his strength. So yeah, spent time in the word and prayed already. And so speaking of that, somebody tried to convince me to rap. It's an audio book. What's the name of it? Story Branding. Building a Story Brand by Don Miller. It's called Building a Story Brand. Shout out to my man, No Malice. God bless you, brother. I love you, man. So, man, I hit you today. I thought of something last week. So, Don Miller, How to Build a Story Brand. Very good. Very good. Really totally will change the framework of your marketing. After that, make sure you read Growth Hacker Marketing. Those are 2 musts for business people. So 30 minutes the other day, somebody spent convincing me to get back to rapping, like right now. Eventually I'll probably drop bars or verses or whatever, I'm sure. Amen. Salute always, man. We got to put together a conference, bro. We got to tell them, grow the heck up and re-envision. You know what I mean? It's just so perfect sitting side by side, brother. We got to do something with that. So someone was convincing me, 30 minutes they spent trying to convince me that I need to rap and, you got to do this and, because they need to hear you and God gave you the gift. And me, I got my plan. I talked to the Lord. I'm tapped in. The Lord's ordering my steps. You guys know what I've been doing with the real estate joint. And somebody's telling me, and I'm like, and I'm hearing them and it's my man, because nobody get to talk to me for 30 minutes and tell me what to do if you're not my man. I'm not listening to you for that long. Tell me to do something that goes against what I believe I should be doing. So that's the only reason they have an audience with me, because they my friend. And I'm listening for 30 minutes. I'm like, that's just not. And they beat me in the head so long because they so excited and they in the spirit and they feel like they could be in the spirit and still counsel me from the flesh. You know what I'm saying? He's in the spirit of wanting to hear me rap and excited about what I could do and the angle of maturity I could bring in my verses and stuff like that. And after 30 minutes, he kind of convinced me. And so I get out the car. I was like, You know what, bro? I'm going to follow up on that track that I was supposed to drop with GS, man. I'm going to hit GS tomorrow, man. He's like, all right, cool, yeah. And he feel like job well done. And I was like, all right, you know. But it was because he beat me in the head. It wasn't because it was the Lord. So I slept on it, woke up, started praying, walking around my living room praying, got my word in my hand. I'm like, nah. I put the Bible down and I left him like a 7-8 minute message being accountable. Like, yo, bro, I hear you. That's not it. You know, those are the kinds of things that you could tell people who don't have direction. Oh, which way did he go? I don't know where to go. Maybe I'll join this ministry. Maybe I don't know. I've been focused for a very long time. You know what I'm saying? But because that in the multitude of counsels, there's safety. So if you're my man, I'll hear you out. I'll let you persuade me for 30 minutes, bro. Like, I'll hear you. And that's the thing too. You don't got to be defensive when people tell you stuff. You can listen. You can take it in. You know, I was listening and processing, but nah, I'm trying to do a real estate reality show. You know what I mean? I'm trying to do a real estate reality show in Houston and get like a multi-ethnic cast. Can you picture that? Me running around on a reality TV show, handling deals, doing real estate. Hey, you never know. I mean, you know, one of my best buddies down here, my man Bizzle, it wasn't him talking in my ear off about rap either the other day. He's hanging out, like doing joints with like Steve Curry, and somebody's telling me to rap. You know, I could get a verse from Bizzle any day. You know, I could get a verse from the Eshons even every day. You know, my man No Malice is probably going to hold me down too. But all I want to do right now is just go sell a house. I don't know. Like, I just got to obey what the Spirit is giving me the endowment to do. That's another thing too. There will be seasons in your life where you feel an endowment, like a glory on what it is that you're doing. You could be sorting paper clips and you'll feel like, man, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And there's a glory when you're moving. It doesn't mean everything's working out. It doesn't mean you have everything. It doesn't mean you're balling or none of that. But when you're moving in the Spirit and you're letting God lead you in a sincere way, and you don't got no agenda, and you really on some hands up, like, yo, Lord, if you say go left, I'll go left. Like, when you open to that, when he directs your steps and orders your path, guys, man, I'm telling you, somebody could have $1 million and you'll be like, nah, like, I'm good. It ain't nothing compared to what I'm feeling. You know what I'm saying? And that's what my scope was going to be. It was going to be like, it's dangerous not to have vision. It's dangerous. Because if I didn't have vision, I'd have been trying to rap this week. You know what I'm saying? Because it seems like you should not be walking around aimlessly as a believer. I don't care if it's, you know, you need a vision for your next 6 months to a year in marriage, a next vision for your finances, for your work, for your education, for what you're going to start. Okay, maybe you got free time. Okay, what am I going to start doing with my kids every day after school that's educational or edifying? Or how am I going to start spending more time with my kids? Whatever it is, you should have vision. You should not be comfortable with no vision. You should know where you're going, because it's the people who don't know where they're going that don't know how to discriminate. You know what I mean? Want to come to the club? Sure, I ain't doing nothing. I'm always doing something. What you talking about? A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways, tossed and driven. Don't be tossed and driven. Yo, come up over here. Or, you know, every week somebody trying to get you in some new scam, or come up over here and get into this ministry, or you want to do this new business, or why don't you help us go down here and minister to the poor? Or listen, all of those things could be good things. But when you know what you're called to do and you're moving in it, it's so helpful. It becomes much easier to discriminate. It becomes much easier to push away the clutter, because you know when things don't fit with the assignment God has you on. And you'll be like a magnet. You'll be so laser focused, and you'll be like a magnet to the people and to the things that are supposed to be with you in this season of your life. And yeah. And then sometimes the glory just departs. You know, like you'll be doing something, you'll be like, oh, I kind of get the feeling that this is up. Like this is on pause or hold or whatever it is. So I know I'm getting spooky with you guys, but you know I love it. You know, sometimes we got to get spooky. So God bless you guys and salute. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate your hearts to even sit around and listen to me, you know, bump my gums. So appreciate the support. Do something for Grow the Heck Up today.